In this video, we're going to cover webinar funnels and automated webinar funnels. This type of funnel can produce extremely great results if done correctly. This type of funnel is used to bring people to your live webinar or pre-recorded webinar in which you provide massive value to your prospect with the end goal of selling them a $500 to $5,000 product or service. Anything under the $500 range, you can just use a regular sales funnel unless you really want to do a webinar and get some practice in, which is totally fine. If you're selling something over $5,000, you should be collecting leads from your prospects to get them on the phone, in person, or even through email and text to make it more personal. You can still do a webinar with a product over $5,000, but you just answer the main questions, show the value in it, and you don't want to try and sell it from just the webinar alone. Again, over $5,000, you want to make it more personal. That's when it starts to get to be quite a bit of money. And a lot of people, they won't buy from just some webinar. They want that one-on-one experience. A webinar funnel works by first using a squeeze page for your prospect to register for the free webinar by asking for their email or email and name. They then will be taken to a thank you page, which is also a confirmation page for the webinar, reminding them of the date and time. Next is where you need to build more anticipation. This can be done by adding another page to your funnel or through emails. You want to make them even more excited to see your webinar and remind them why they signed up. Depending on your relationship to the prospects you are marketing your webinar to will depend on how long you market it for. Something I learned from Russell Brunson, if you're marketing to cold traffic or people who have no idea who you are, then you only want to market it for about 3.5 days before the webinar. So let's say your webinar is on Friday, market it from Tuesday all the way up until about an hour before your webinar starts. Doing this any earlier than about those 3.5 days, then people probably won't remember who you are or why they signed up to watch your webinar. However, if you're targeting hot traffic or people who are very familiar with you or your business, then you can begin marketing about 2 weeks prior. These are people who have purchased from you in the past and are subscribed to your email list. You usually will market this through email and then beginning running ads to your cold traffic 3 days before the webinar. The more people you have in the webinar, the more people that'll end up purchasing your product or service. The next page your prospect's taken to is the sales page and order form, usually all on one page, but again can be 2 separate pages. You remind them why they need your product or service and the key points, then give them a place to purchase. You'll finish off your funnel with a thank you page and order confirmation page for the people who purchased. Now for everyone who misses your webinar, you will make a webinar replay page and start sending emails to anyone who signed up and missed the webinar, trying to get them to purchase as well. Do this for another 3 days, and then you can either shut down that webinar and do another webinar the same way as the first one the following week. If you keep doing this live, you'll continue to get better and better at presenting your webinars and getting more and more people to purchase each time. Or once you know that your webinar is perfect and it's converting very high and you are completely satisfied with the results, which is known as an auto webinar or automated webinar. Again, this is once you have your webinar perfect and it's converting extremely well every single time you run the ads to it. The only difference with an automated webinar is on the registration page, your prospect can select the date and time they want to watch the webinar from the choices you give them. You don't tell them it's not a live webinar, but you also don't say it is a live webinar, just call it a webinar. This way, most people will assume it's live. Which makes it that much better. Other than them choosing the date and time, which I like to limit to 3 upcoming date choices and usually 4 different times each day. Continuing to run ads to it as long as it's making you money, it's the same process as a normal webinar funnel. They see a registration page, a thank you and confirmation page, the webinar, an order page, and an order confirmation page. And you send people to the replay who missed the time they signed up for, so everything else is essentially the same, other than you're not doing the webinar live, and you're giving people options for dates and times. So I have a couple examples pulled up here. So the first one we're going to look at, this is for a live webinar. So this one is for product for losing weight and gaining muscle. Discover the stupid simple tricks for losing weight and gaining muscle on June 28th at 7:30 p.m. with the hosts Jim and Sarah. Little video here convincing them why they should sign up for the webinar. So right here, register your spot now. So click there, enter your email address. And again, you can ask for name, email, or just email address. So register your spot. So this is basically the thank you page or webinar confirmation page. Great, you're now successfully registered and confirmed for this webinar. It gives you a place to share, so other people can also share your webinar and bring even more people to it organically, which is awesome. It reminds them of the date and time down here. And then basically, you can either put a link on this page that they can click to be taken to the webinar when it's happening, or you can email them with that link, or you can do both. It just depends on how you want to go about it. So now let's say the webinar is here. So this is the actual webinar page where they'll see your video here that you're doing live. And if they come in late, they'll see the click to join session progress, so they can just click that and be able to watch your webinar. Again, down here goes over the hosts, the order now button. So you can either have this show right away as soon as the webinar starts, or you can make it so they don't see anything until after the webinar is over, or about 5 minutes before it's over. Once they have a real idea of what your offer is, then you can have this appear. It depends on how you want to go about it. If we click the order now button, say that we really wanted their product, taken to a simple order page again, which we've seen in the last two funnels, so nothing too crazy here. Then after they input all their information and purchase the product, they'll be taken again to a order confirmation page. Now with email marketing, you'll be emailing the people who missed the webinar, trying to get them to watch the replay. Basically, the replay looks like this, very similar, just a little bit different page layout. And again, you can customize this however you want and then get instant access now. So this will take them back to the order page, just like the live webinar did. Now to look at automated webinar funnel. Now looking at the automated webinar portion, same hosts, a little bit different page, but the main difference here, again, they'll go through a squeeze page and then they'll be taken to this page. You can either watch yesterday's replay video, you can watch it now, or you can choose a date and time, whichever you want to do. So we'll say Sunday the 24th at 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., or 6 p.m. And you can give people different options if you want to add more times in there. You can do that as well, but generally I like to limit it to 4 times. That's really the only difference with the automated webinar, is right here giving them the ability to pick the date and time, and then obviously you're not doing it live. It's a webinar that you recorded that you did do live, but you're just basically showing the replay over and over. But again, you don't want to go for this until you know your webinar is absolutely perfect. Once it's converting the way you want it to, or even better every single time, then you can look into doing an automated webinar. But until that point, stick with a live webinar, even though it can be kind of weird doing a webinar live because you can make mistakes that people will see. You'll learn, you'll grow, you'll get better, and you'll continue to get better and better results as you practice. Then you can look at moving into the automated webinar. That's basically the only difference between the two, is being able to pick the date and time. Other than that, they are similar. I'm sure that you're starting to see the similarity here, where a lot of these funnels are just pieces of other funnels put together. Maybe they're 1 or 2 pages that are different from others. Because like this one, it has the webinar, but then it also has a squeeze page, the sales page, the order confirmation page. It's got elements from funnels we've already looked at, but the difference is it's for a webinar. You use this to sell anything from about $500 to $5,000. In that range, a webinar works very well, and you can make a lot of money if you do it right. That's it for the webinar funnel, and we will dive more in depth with each one of these when we actually go through and start creating these funnels. We're just going over the basics right now. Hope everything's coming out clear, and congratulations on making it this far in the training. A lot of people, they'll purchase trainings, they make it through the first section or two, or maybe even the first few videos, and then they drop out. Congratulations to you for sticking with it, and we're almost to the fun part of where we get to actually start making funnels. A few more funnels we're going to go through before we get to that point, but I will see you in the next video.